and feeling like somehow I had control, which I didn't, no control whatsoever. So there's watching them miss out. I mean, they're going to be playing in the runner-up game on Saturday against France, but it's been 60 years since England's won, so I'm kind of I have a certain vested interest in like to see them win one more time.
And anyway, watching yourself sounds fascinating.
Oh, I have, for those who watch my solo videos and when I talk about my work in other places, I do a lot of self-observation. Yes, absolutely. So I teach from what I learn, you know.
And I think so many people have gotten really extra wrapped up in the games, partly because they were now played in the States. And it's also something that happens with dating, is that we have expectations about things that we have no control over, like the other soccer team or our soccer team.
There's so much we could extract from the World Cup games and talk about dating in the same vein. Maybe for another show.
I think that I'll add it to one of our subjects because it's really been fun to see how people have been interacting when they've been here and we've been interacting with them.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about texting. Oh, the joy and bane and challenge and necessary things about texting, and that people think that they really can have real conversations, and maybe some people can, but it's really not a good substitute often. So we're going to talk about all of that today.
Yes, we will.
I think that might be pricking up some people's ears who have had frustrations with it a lot. And Barry and I'd like to welcome you today to the newsstreamingnetwork.com, WGSN-DB Going Solo Network, radio, TV, and podcast #1 internet singles talk network. And this is Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine.
Who's bemoaning that England lost at the soccer.
At this late stage in the tournament, yes.
They made it far, though. That's very exciting, especially because it's been such a long time that they held their own for such a long time against really good teams.
Yes, indeed. And anyway, that'll be. I'm in the middle of postmortems with friends of mine, so let's say offline, not online.
Yeah. Yeah, we have to have all the. That's the other thing in dating too that we'll talk about, having all the different pockets of people to support you through all of the parts of your life. And how much can one person listen about our dating? We listen to it all day long, every day.
Yes.
But a little hard on our friends sometimes, which could be through texting too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So texting. So generally, what I think most of the time texting is good for is just checking in. Do you need anything? I'm running late. I'm running early. How you doing? You know, I've said I really like a good morning text and a how you doing in the middle of the day, and an evening text when I'm in a relationship with somebody. It just makes me feel more connected. It makes me feel that they're thinking about me during the day. And most men have been very receptive about that because I'm so appreciative when they do that. And generally, my preference is not to have long conversations through text because I don't hear their emotion. I can't convey my emotion. And also with autocorrect, you could now say something you entirely didn't mean to say.
I see those,
even with my fingers, and I think I'm typing, you know, the talk to text is really scary because you have no idea what they're going to hear you say, the Siri person. So trying to use it to build a conversation, to build a relationship, is fraught with challenges. And at least if you know what the challenges are and you're up for them, we're not here to say don't do it. Just know what could possibly happen and that it truly cannot be a substitute for a real conversation. And it's also a way that the scammers are going to lure you in because they aren't going to want to have a real conversation. I just have to say that out loud.
Yeah. I want to just draw a slight parallel for a second. It's just across my mind is that I've become very passionate listening to audiobooks now. And what I'm noticing, and it's interesting because I'm listening to a book series. I'm a science fiction nerd, so I listen to science fiction books. And I'm listening to this book series. It's a 6-book series, but I happen to, by accident, listen to a dramatization audiobook, not the actual audiobook. Because actually, in this series, they've made duplicates. There's like one is just the narrator reading the whole story, and another set is people actually acting with music and everything. Like it's almost like an audio play.
Wow.
And I'm saying to make a point is that reading a book can be one way to take information in, but what's on the page is fairly basic. I like reading the audiobooks because I go hiking in the morning. It's one reason I just keep myself, it's a way of ingesting good content. And I've done it with a lot of nonfiction books too. But what I'm noticing when I hear somebody describe things, I hear things differently than I would read them. And that for me up levels things. And then hearing the dramatization version takes another level entirely. And the reason I'm saying this is because when people text, it's the very basic level of communication. And I feel like what I did recently, because I was reaching out to a lot of friends of mine about some questions I would ask them, I sent audio texts, which you can do now on cell phones. You can basically, instead of just sending an audio, instead of calling and leaving a voicemail, you can do an audio text. And for me, that's a very easy way to communicate. And also they can hear my tonality, the timbre of my voice, how I'm feeling, what's going on for me. And I've been getting some really wonderful response from people who basically voice text back or they call back going, so nice to hear from you, sort of thing, because it's not just letters on a screen. So one big difference of texting, shift from texting is you can raise the bar by being able to give your voice to somebody's communication. The other part I want to say, which is going to frame this conversation really, is the way that we receive information in psychological terms, which basically is that we as communicators only actually hear about, I think the numbers are something along the lines of less than 20% of our communication is verbal. Because in communication, when we're with somebody in person, there's all the physical connections we have by how we look, how we speak, how we lean, how we hold our posture. And also when we talk, it's not just the words we say, but it's the timbre, the tonality, everything else as well. So our communication is such a multi-layered piece of three-dimensional experience. It's not just the words we say. So again, texting is even more reduced or reductive version of communication. So this is why I'm going to start by saying it does defeat real communication.
It really, because the point of communicating means that you're communicating with all your senses.
Yes.
Because that's why when you moved from texting to phoning to either something video or in person, because you really can get more of a sense of people's expressions when they're talking. I think I hear their tonality even more because I can see the expression behind it, not just the tone of their voice. It just adds that next dimension, which is so important for us because hopefully you're going to want to spend time with them in person. So why not see if that seems okay in the beginning?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, we are big fans of Alison Armstrong, and she wrote that lovely book, The Queen's Code, which I was one of the beta readers. I was really lucky that we got to get on with her every week and tell her what we thought so she could make changes to her movie that she typed. And now she's done the audio recording, which she hadn't really thought about in the beginning. But one of the cool things, as you mentioned, is she does all the voices. Everybody has a different way of speaking, a different tonality, a different pacing, which I do sort of in my head, but they certainly were different than the ones I gave them. And I liked that I got to hear what she thought because she's the person that really wrote it. So that's the big part, as you keep saying, and we will keep saying throughout this, that you're going to miss the emotion behind what people are saying, that you're going to lose some of who they really are, learning who they are, if you're only texting.
Yeah.
And what I will say, for the masculine people that I coach, which majority of them are men, but I have some women that run companies and are very much in their masculine a lot in the daytime. They like texting because they can think about it. They can write it out. They can see what they wrote. They can change it to see if that's really what they meant. They like that part. They also like knowing they can pause. They're pausing to think before they even start typing, especially the real masculine people. You think, and then it comes out. Where we women, the more feminine, often we're thinking as we're speaking. No, I don't think it's that. I think it's this. And yeah, I think it's, we do that. It's just how our brains are wired. So I do understand the benefits of, at least in the beginning, having some initial conversation through text, because it gives you a chance to feel like you're being more clear in words, even if you can't be clear in your tone. So I give the benefit of the doubt to that, as certainly in the beginning. Just can't be a steady diet.
Yeah, that's actually another reason why I like voice text, because same as with written text, it isn't sent until I choose to send it. Whereas with I'm reading a voicemail, I'm kind of committed in the process. And so, yeah, absolutely, and I agree. And I think it's like even when I have client calls, even when I'm doing prospective consultation with clients, I do it over Zoom for that very reason. Is because yes, audio is good, but video is even better because you get to experience more of who that person is with the words they're saying, rather than just having just the audio track of what they're saying.
And I give that choice to everybody, and more people are choosing to go on Zoom. And once they've done it, they're like, oh, I'm so hooked now. I really like this. I do have to say, I'm going to look down now and then because I'm taking some notes, if it's our ongoing coaching, because I'm not going to remember. I don't want to have to think about it. And if there's something I want to bring up, I'll look down, but I'm not looking away. Because that's another thing on Zoom, because I'm a very auditory person. If I've heard you talk, I will remember your voice in an ear. I won't have any idea what your name was, and I'll probably have forgotten what your face looks like. But I learned there was you're going to know what it is, where you look in the direction that you learn. I constantly do this. What was that? What was that? And I'm hearing, what did the person say? What did I learn that way? And it was so freeing to go, but that's why I'm doing it. I'm looking over here because I'm remembering something. I'm not looking over because I'm not. Because sometimes people think that because you're lying or you're afraid, which certainly are real reasons. But mine's often that I'm recreating, where did I learn that information from in my ear?
It's something that, yes, you're an auditory person, basically, is you're wired that way, which I understand. I'm more a visual kinesthetic, so I tend to look up and remembering things. That's if you've learned NLP, you know that there's seeing if somebody else is a certain style by how they where their eyes go when they're trying to remember something. It's a visual memory, not audio memory. But I would agree with you. And the thing for me is, it's interesting because I do it differently with my Zoom meetings. I record them so I don't have to write down, take notes. Because I like to be present with the person I'm talking to. It's like the challenge is, if I'm sitting face to face with that person, it's hard for me to keep track of what's going on if I don't have a way to write it down, which I don't like doing because it pulls me away from the conversation. Because being the masculine style, I'm single focused. It's hard to do multitasking. So when I'm talking to somebody, like I've been doing these ideal client avatar interviews for the last month or so, I've had about 15 of them now. And every one of them, I start with saying, I'm going to record it because I want to be able to listen back if I need to afterwards, so I can stay present with you in the conversation. And that's what I do with my clients. So it's really good practice for me.
Yeah, most of them want to be recorded, and I send them all the recordings. That's a really good point to bring up. Bless you.
Thank you.
And also, sometimes they're bringing up so many things. I don't want to interrupt, and I will write them down because I just want to make sure I remember them all. So it's fun to hear. Everybody has these different techniques, and we have to figure out what works for us first, and then what works for the other person. So that's the thing that I tell people in the beginning: have this conversation. So what kind of texting style do you have? Do you like getting texts? Do you like waking up to something? Do you like going to sleep to something? Is that something you would really like all the time? Because I have clients who say every other day. I don't need more than every other day. Just give me every other day. It feels too much so when somebody will ask you and you tell them, then you don't end up with these huge misunderstandings either. So that you can text successfully and give them what they need if it's something that you can give because you've asked ahead of time. And boy, I've heard stories about, oh my gosh, this is what's happened in the past. And I'm so glad you've asked because I don't want it to happen this way again.
It is one of those things that creates, for me, it's like, hey, what level you create the relationship at? Whether it's client, coach-client, or romantic relationship or business relationship, whatever it is. And so to establish a certain level, because for me, texting, going back to what we said at the beginning, I feel it definitely is about logistics. The texting really, its best purpose is to communicate data points, which is not what emotions and relationship conversations are really about. It's why there's a difference. Why I talk about how texting does defeat real communication. Or a conversation, excuse me. Because it's not about communication, it's about conversation. And so for me, the idea of texting is it really has become, and I'm trying to remember when I started texting, probably back in, I think, Trio days. I didn't do BlackBerry, but I think I had a Trio before I had an iPhone. And actually, no, before that, with the Nokia phones, with the T9 system, I remember trying to say, I mean, that's the other thing.
Oh,
so for those of you who are young and don't know this, back at the beginning, yeah, you remember. The first cell phones, which are little tiny screens, usually the Nokias or the Motorola StarTACs or the other phones of that era. When we started having personal cell phones, because before that they were corporately owned, I did use a few of those phones back in the mid 80s, early 80s. This is going back now dating me. But bringing it forward that those phones didn't have a keyboard on them. So you made your text message by using a numeric keypad that had, if you've seen a numeric keypad on those phones, it has like 1 was A, B, C, 2 was C, D, D, F, that sort of thing. So basically when you text somebody with the T9 keyboard, it would take you about half an hour to text somebody because you're going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So back then, texting wasn't usually that deep because there weren't emoticons back then and there weren't the ability to type in long sentences. And also, I think, if I remember correctly, there was a maximum length of maybe 180 characters, something like that. It was a small available space, kind of like how Twitter became, where you didn't have much room to text a lot of information. So it wasn't about real conversations. It was about just, are you there? Can we talk? That sort of thing. And then you make the phone calls. So for those of you who didn't know that time, technology's come forward a long, long way where you have smartphones and you have basically open-ended ability to text what you want. Well, it's probably limited like 300 or 400 characters now, but you can write out what you feel on a keyboard, adding emoticons and other things too. So you can basically put a fairly well illustrated and elaborated story into a text message, which you couldn't do back in the day. But it's still not enough. It's my viewpoint.
Such a good point. Yes, when I married my late husband and he had a 16-year-old daughter and I had one of those kinds of phones, she'd send me a text and I would poke out some very brief message because really it does take a really long time. And then hers would come blazing back. And I poked out my... I had so forgotten that till you brought up, and the pain. She really wanted to communicate with me and I really was game, but it was painful. It was painful how hard it was. Where in the heck is that letter? And where's that letter? And oh, I poked the wrong one. And how do I back up? And oh, the letter's way over here and way over here. So I think that's part of the challenge is that now it is so easy. I mean, it's truly so effortless to send a text for everybody. I mean, I have friends that are 20 years older than me and they text all the time. They're effortless to use their phones. That can't be a substitute, even though it's easy and maybe feels even easier to have a conversation, to really communicate with somebody. Now, I have a couple clients that they really enjoy texting with their other person and the other person likes texting back and they can go on for hours. Okay, if it's working for both of you and you still talk on the phone and Zoom and in person, it's like having a balanced diet. I am not going to tell you to have only one kind of food, but I'd like you to have a variety of food all the time. So in your communication menu, I want you to make sure that you're having lots of real tonal voice conversations, looking at each other conversations, and not just texting, even though it's really tempting.
Yeah, it's so much to talk about. I'm going to take a break in a moment, so I'll hold my thoughts till I come back.
I love your sighs. Your sighs say so. Your sighs say paragraphs, Mr. Selby.
What can I say?
So, wow, if you've had a problem with somebody who wants to text you all the time and you want to talk, or you want to text all the time and they don't understand because they want to talk, Barry and I would be so happy to help you puzzle that out and come to some resolution for both of you. So the way to get a hold of me is to go to my website, which is theperfectcatch.com. Scroll to the middle of the screen and you can sign up to have a complimentary conversation with me on the phone or on Zoom, your choice. And we'll puzzle this out together. You'll fill out a brief questionnaire and then you get a chance to schedule a complimentary appointment with me through my online calendar. And you can also send me a personal and private email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And how would people reach you, Barry?
Similar to Christine, you can also go to my website to find out how to get in touch with me. At the top of the homepage of my site is a button that clicks on and says, let's have a conversation, or let's have a chat. And I'll take you to my calendar, similar in fashion. And on my calendars, you choose a date and time up to, I think, 30 days ahead. And then that takes you then to a form you fill out, which lets me get to know more about what you're looking for, how I can help you, and that sort of thing. So you fill that out. So that schedules a 20-minute Zoom call between me and you. As I mentioned earlier, I like doing the Zoom calls because we can talk directly face-to-face. And if you want to send me an email, just send me one at barry@barryselby.com, and we'll tell you about all the rest of the stuff you can find out about us at the end of the show.
So we're going to take a brief break for our wonderful station, the newsstreamingnetwork.com, who puts out these live episodes as well as our podcasts. And then we'll be back shortly to talk more about how texting defeats real conversation.
See you in a moment.
and welcome back to Let's Talk Dating with Christine and Barry. And today we're talking about how texting can really defeat having real conversations with people.
Yeah.
It's never a substitute. It just can't be a substitute for having a live conversation with somebody on the phone, on Zoom or FaceTime or in person. You don't get to see their eyes. You don't get to see what emotion they're expressing. You don't get to see them really looking at you and seeing you. Being seen is something that I think is a high commodity for people and not so often gotten. I think people are feeling very not seen nowadays in the world in general, and certainly by their significant people.
Yep.
And texting, I think, is one of the reasons, because how can you feel seen through a text? I don't know how that could really happen.
I think that the challenge with that is, and you mentioned it earlier in the show about really how a lot of people sort of voice to text, or they do other things, they do text, is there's room for misinterpretation. The thing with the written word is it doesn't definitively define what it's talking about. So when we text somebody, especially if you don't usually text paragraphs to each other, is that what we're saying has a nuance that's not available to us. It's missing in a sense, because it's hard to put emotions onto what's written. In fact, I've seen it done before, where basically you take a sentence, you read it out one emotional expression, then read out a different emotional expression, and they both work, but the text didn't change. And so when you're texting somebody, what you send and what they receive can be extremely different. So that's why I think the real conversation is so important, because first of all, in real conversation, even though people do it in text as well, you can see by looking in their eyes when you're talking to them, did they get what you were sending? Did they receive you the way you were intending to be sent?
And certainly something that's happened to me personally, and I've seen it happen with other people, is somebody sends you a text, so you start to answer, but then they say something else. So now your answer goes below the second thing they said, which doesn't really fit the thing they said. So then you go to answer that thing, but now they're answering the first, the mess. And it's for only because the delay and the way that the texts go back and forth, and you don't know how it's getting delayed. And so that just opens up a whole bunch of misinterpretation. And it really is a tone thing. You could say, as you said, the same thing in like 5 different tones and mean 5 different things. And you're leaving it up to the person reading it to know what kind of tone you meant. And they're like, oh, but they know me really well. Well, maybe they're having a bad day, or maybe they weren't reading it. They read it too fast, or they read it the wrong word. I mean, really, it just leaves open a problem that doesn't need to get created, that now you have to go clean up a mess that you didn't have to clean up if you hadn't made the mess. And it's
Yes.
a way to avoid the mess. We have enough trouble with messes. We don't need to make more of them, right? Stuff just happens anyway.
Yes.
And you can address it so immediately if you're talking, where that texting thing is like, stop. We have to stop. We have to start over again, because this has just turned into such a mishmash.
Something I want to just throw on top of that to make it more confusing and complicated is I have plenty of friends of mine who are dealing with ADHD, or they have maybe dyslexia as part of their mindset as well. Imagine texting somebody or being texted by somebody who doesn't speak the same language you do. I'm using that term intentionally because people's thought processes aren't all the same. Even though they maybe speak the same language, if somebody is dyslexic or has ADHD, their word presentation in written form is going to be different from yours, or yours from them, depending on how it is. So texting is just going to perpetrate the same issue. And I have watched, actually a friend of mine did this. He posted it on social media about 4 days ago. He's a comedian too, so he does talk about this, about how because he has such problems timing the text with his big fat thumbs, he does voice to text. And apparently his version of text conversion, like writing up, what's what I'm looking for? It biases towards proper names and names in his phone book before it goes to actual words. And so when he writes a text to somebody, it misspells almost every word in his text. And he's like, he has to go back and rewrite the whole thing again and again and again. It's so nightmarish. That's why I think it's so important. I mean, even if you're going to voice text somebody, which I think is a really good way to go do things nowadays, because I use it a lot myself and I like the feeling of that and how it's received. At least that way there won't be misinterpretations, because if you are dealing with written challenges, the way you write is challenging. when you speak to somebody, it's easier to be understood. Even if it's a foreign accent, you're better off understanding, you know?
Oh yeah. It's we men and women in general, masculine and feminine in general, people in general have so many opportunities to misunderstand each other already for so many reasons, and that it just ups the game when it's texting. It just does. And our intention is to be really clear. I get that. And if you're going to say I'm running late, do that.
Hmm.
Or could I pick up something on my way? Lovely. And even if it kind of messes it up, there's only so much that could get messed up. But if you want to say something heartfelt or you want to ask a more personal question, boy, the challenges behind that you now have to undo before you can even move on from where you were. I've certainly personally experienced it, and I hear about it all the time from clients. And that's why I say in the beginning, if you're going to start seeing each other, even for a third time, even the first time, if you're really bold, this is how I prefer. This is how I prefer to text. Little short, just give me some information. You want to do something. Here's some days and times I'm available. Does that work for you? There's so little room for error that when you start wanting to have this is who I am and tell me about you, boy, it's just too hard. It's too hard to not make a mistake. That now you have to have a whole conversation through text about that wasn't what I meant.
That's the other part too, is that when you do communicate with somebody through voice message or voice text, something like that, it's kind of like you said it's done. But when you text and it's not read properly, not received properly, it becomes this ongoing conversation which takes a lot more effort, a lot more time just to clean up the mess you've made, as we said before, about the mess you make in communication that you didn't do right the first time. So I am somewhat biased now that texting has to be really limited in its scope, what it's for, period. And then everything else becomes a communication, whether it's a voice text, voicemail, or a direct communication conversation in person.
And what I've learned with my voice texting is it has to read it back to me. I figured out how to have it read it back to me before it sends. It used to just send. And it was like, yeah, that's not what I meant. Yeah. Because it doesn't always understand us. Even though I said what I meant to say, it heard something different. And now it's going to send something different. So now our agreement, my little Siri and I, we have an agreement that it reads back everything and then says, do you want to change or do you want to send? And I like that feature a lot, even though it takes another step, especially if I'm doing something talking in the car, because I can't read it with my eyes. I want to make sure that what you're sending is what I really meant to say, even if it's like, oh, I didn't mean that, I'm going to change it, but I did say that. I want that option too.
Yeah.
So I'm really careful with that voice texting thing because I got burned a couple of times. So I'm not doing it that way anymore.
So here's the thing. Everyone has a different choice and preference. I know what mine is. You know what yours is.
Mm-hmm.
But again, choose something other than just straight texting. Because again, it is a very simple tool that can really tie us in knots. And I've seen it happen. Basically, texting can actually cause breakups. So it's not the best servant for your relationship, communication, and conversations. So improve your communication methods and use texting just for the basics.
And the other thing that I've seen happen in the dating world is people start getting really attached over text.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know this person. You think you really do. You think you've had heartfelt emails. You think you've had heartfelt texts. And could be, but you don't really know. You don't know, is this really them, who they are, what they're really saying, what they're really intending? You don't know until you've talked to them on the phone and seen them on some sort of virtual thing or in person. Because I've had people, oh my gosh, it's been 2 months and we've had these long, deep texting and I just know I'm in love with them. I'm like, but you really can't know that. And it's a danger. It really is. If you think that you're expressing your emotions and they're expressing it, then why not talk on the phone? Why not Zoom or FaceTime? Why not, if you can't meet in person, at least do that? You cannot get attached to somebody through text. I'm just going to make it a rule.
Yeah. No, as you said before the break about the into dating apps, the typing text message, because there are definitely so many fake accounts on dating apps on both sides of the dating spectrum. And so when a friend of mine talks about this too, and I agree with him, but it's like get the communication straight off a text into a phone call, even if you do it through a Google Voice number, because the other part also for safety. So there's been another shows about this, about safety and communication. Ladies, do not give out your cell phone number until you really know the person you're talking to. Get a Google Voice number for a week and use that as your number to go through, so that way you can talk and connect through that number versus your personal number or through the app. Because the challenges, and most of the apps nowadays are getting better, where the dating apps have built into them, they have audio and even have video communication through the app, so you can see the person, which is better. Because frankly, even if the person's the right person, sometimes the pictures are 20 years old, so you don't really know what they look like anymore. So having a video chat can really clean up the mess, and you get to know, is this the person I really want to find out more about or not?
Yeah. You cannot make texting the end all beat all. You can't make it the reason that you're going to now want to think you be with somebody or get attached to somebody. That's really when you still have to have an emotional investment of zero, completely zero. No matter what they say, no matter what their picture looks like, you have to experience them in real time, looking at their face in order to even make them be a one. And I've had people say, oh my gosh, I'm madly in love, or, we're going to be together forever. And they've not even talked on the phone. They haven't met in person. It's very sad, but it happens. It really can happen. And we're here to say, please don't do that.
Well, if you're someone who is maybe desperate for love, needing for love, feeling like you've been alone too long, and I've been talking to a lot of people about that in my research, as I mentioned before.
Yeah.
It's tempting sometimes to fall into that feeling of joy and excitement and possibility with somebody more quickly than maybe you would otherwise do. And we've said it before in the show, so I'm going to keep saying it again and again, is be cautious, be wise, be astute how you approach this person. One of the things I've been discovering in my calls with the people I talk to is the whole thing about trust issues that come up. And I'm like, yeah, and people on dating apps don't trust themselves enough to say no to people aren't the right people. It's like, it's tempting just to think, well, it's the best possible result may happen if I just simply reach out to this person. You don't know that. And it's, frankly, the same as trying to go on eBay and buy something just as badly. You don't know what you're going to get till you get it. So the more you are wise in your approach and choosing the right tools and the vehicles to communicate, the better, so that you have the best chance of finding the right person you want to be with in the dating arena. And having a sense of clean communication and effective communication, so you know where you stand, where the other person stands before you go any further.
And at least on eBay, you can read reviews about the vendor and the seller. I know, because I had a bad experience, and it turned out you can't put a bad experience in there. It's really frustrating. And test drive a car. You always want to test drive a car before you buy it. So this is how you're test driving. Would you like to meet them in person? On the phone, hear their voice in real time, see them in some sort of virtual way, or meet them in person so that you can see, do I want to spend more time with this person besides texting through my phone? Yeah, it's so important. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to have somebody who cares and somebody who wants to give me all this attention and wants to text every day, all day long. It's not enough. We're just going to have to keep saying it's not enough. You deserve more. You definitely deserve more. And if you don't know that, and that was okay, because Barry and I have worked with people like that, then we're here to talk to you. If you think that you can't deserve any more than that, if that's something that you don't think you could have, you could ask for, or that you've just been alone so long you have to settle for something like that, Barry and I would be here to support you. And that's not the truth.
Yeah. And we'll tell you more about how you reach both of us at the end of the show. But I want to drop one more thing in here, which we talked about. Was it last week or the week before about you can't date AI? Was that recent? That was recent one we did.
Yeah.
And that's another little bit of texting. I've read some recent articles about this and talked to people about this, where they fall in love with an artificial intelligence voice that, or not voice even, but a bot that they talk to by typing in things. This is a faceless, amorphous collection of data that basically combed the web to find things about love and relationship that it uses to talk to you because you invited it that. This is how easy and maybe not so healthy it is to fall into that euphoria state with somebody that isn't real, something that isn't real. I know this is a sidebar from texting, but it's the same sort of level. Texting is no different in some sense, because texting doesn't give you who that person is, as I mentioned more than one time during the show. It also doesn't give you the ability to really reach that person the right way. So as Christine said, and I've said before as well, the video connection, especially audio is good, but video is even better because you see the person moving and you know it's really the person. Because I'm sorry to say it, but even AI can do audio now, so it can get distractingly, what's the one I'm looking for? Cheating in a way. It can pull you in because it sounds good. So with video, it's even more likely to find a real person. So, and again, that's going to get back. That's going to be hard too. So it's going to be the point now where eventually we're going to say, you know, the only way to know is to meet somebody in person, because the other means of communication, verbal, whether it's written text or audio text or it's videos, can be faked more and more now. So just word to the wise, be cautious and be smart about yourself.
And even real people are using AI to create their communication. So you really need to see, can they speak the way that they're right? That would be the last thing.
Agreed.
So if any of this is touching you and you think, I want to know more about this and I want my life to be happier in the dating arena, and this has been a sticking point for me, we'd be happy to talk to you. And the way to reach me is to go to my website, which is theperfectcatch.com. Scroll to the middle of my page. You can sign up to have a conversation with me. There's a brief 8 questions. Where are you now? Where would you like to be? Then you'll have access to my online calendar, and we can talk on phone or Zoom, and I'll get you some tools. I promise you we'll leave with a tool. And then if you'd like to speak more to me, and I would enjoy that as well, then we'll set up a time to talk more. If you go to the top of my website, you can download my book. It's full of 10 years of an advice column. It's my gift to you for free, and I'm happy to send it to you. All you have to do is click on that. You click on my mailing list, and you'll get a repeat of this live podcast every next week in your email box. You can also go to the bottom and look at all my social media icons of Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and Twitter and Pinterest and YouTube, and click on almost 300. We're getting really close to 300. I think after today, we're 3 away from 300 podcasts.
Wow.
Yes. And also to know, this is another level of the way I came up with the name of my company, is that you need to work on yourself first. So you're going to learn to be the perfect catch, and then you'll attract the perfect catch. You can also send me an email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. And Barry, tell people how to reach you.
Wow, almost 300. I was telling somebody else, we started this podcast in 2020, so it's been 6 years we're doing this podcast together. Wow.
Well, I know we had an anniversary last week.
Yes, we did. Okay, so the way to reach me, you go to my website, which is, again, my name, barryselby.com. At the top of the page, as I mentioned at the midway point, click on the button there that says let's have a chat. So you can get on my calendar and we can fill out questions. We'll have a 20-minute conversation, my gift to you, and decide if you want to work together, and also what's working. I'll give you some tips and guidance in that session anyway, so you get free stuff no matter what you do. So just come and meet me, and we can talk and have a conversation. On the bottom of my homepage on my website is a way to just jump into my email list. If you just want to become a subscriber to my emails, you can put your name and email in there. You'll get emails from me every week, because I send out a replay of this show as well, plus things I'm working on, other invitations, and that will get you in the fastest way possible. If you don't even want to do anything else, just get in my email list that way. At the middle of the homepage of my website is the first of my 2 assessment quizzes I created. This one is your relationship readiness assessment. So you can click on the button in the middle of the page or type in barryselby.com/quiz. And it gives you a bunch of questions that basically just sees where you are in your relationship to the next person. How ready are you for that relationship? And for that, you'll get an email from me, which basically gives you a grade. I want to be careful I say this, but like a perception you are on how far ahead you are, how far behind you are, as well as a link to reach out to me and have a conversation. The other one, which is still going to be put on my homepage, is not there yet, is the self-relationship assessment. So you go to barryselby.com/self-quiz to get there for now. And again, it will be on the homepage soon. And if you click on that quiz, you'll actually get a much deeper and a 7-section review of your relationship with yourself. Because like Christina talked about how the relationship with yourself comes first to have the relationship with somebody else. And this is a way to really get to know, where am I lined up? Where am I out of alignment? So you know what that is. And it's because this deeper quiz will give you not just an email, but you also get a PDF download, which has a bunch of different teachings, tools, and skills you can take with you. So it's worth doing that for that alone. Additionally, on my website is my best-selling book, which you can see over my shoulder on my shelf back there, which is called 50 Ways to Love Your Lover. That book's been out now 13 years. If you type in the code directly, it's barryselby.com/book. And on that page, if you want to find out more about what my book is about, at the top of that page is an audio review, about 12-13 minute conversation between very smart AI generated voices. Again, there's a challenge about AI voices. They can sound very real. But this is a review of my book that's been generated by this AI tool that you can have a listen to and decide if that book's good for you or not, because it does give you some good principles in it, and it really is described very articulately by these two voices. So listen first, and then if you want to get the book, there are buttons at the bottom of the page to go get the book as well. You can find me on social media under my name, Barry Selby, on most of the platforms. So you can find me under Barry Selby under Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Pinterest, back on TikTok again, also on Blue Sky, and there's one other one, which will come back to me in a second. Oh, YouTube, of course, where all the shows that we've done together are up on there, plus another 12, 1300 videos I've done myself. And because I'm now doing more live, more uploaded videos onto the social media platforms, I'm also putting them on YouTube as well. So I've got a shorts or reels, or it's called, section of my YouTube channel for a bunch of little teachings I put up there as well. If you want to find me on Instagram and Threads, it's the real Barry Selby, because it's the one place it changed. And I think that's everything you need to know. Oh, and you can send me an email at barry@barryselby.com.
And we're here every week live on StreamYard at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern on Thursdays. And we're happy to have you join us. If you type in a question, we will answer it online. And then you can watch us afterwards on Roku or YouTube on your TV or your devices. But they can take us with them too, right, Barry?
Indeed, yes. Our show is not only just a video description conversation between me and Christine, it's actually a podcast as well, so you can listen to our voices. So if you're somewhere where you can't look at a screen, but you can listen, you can take us on your favorite podcast platforms, where it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you listen to your podcasts, and all 280, 290 shows we've done so far uploaded. So you can listen to many, many, many conversations we've had and find the title that speaks to you, because frankly, our conversations land for a lot of people. And if have a listen, I know Christine's going to tell you about what else you can do with it as well.
Yeah, so if you're in the middle of it and you hear something that you have a friend, you're like, oh my gosh, they need to listen to this, please share it with your friends and leave us a review and like us and subscribe. And we will be back next week with another interesting topic about dating and relationships.
We'll see you then. Take care.
Bye for now.